we are going to be talking about meaningful conversations and how that is worth a lot more than what people think. Take it away.
So yeah, the topic today, thanks Jess, the topic is that one meaningful conversation is worth more than 1 million likes. Right? And it's a bit of a headline attention grabber, but the premise behind it is true. So we live in a world now where we celebrate our vanity stats. So we celebrate the amount of likes we have, the amount of followers we have, the amount of page views that we have. And we talked about this in an abstract form last week, where we talked about the fact that we talk about acquisition more than we talk about retention. And almost every business does the same. You talk about acquisition, 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 and very rarely do you remember to talk about retention. So as people are going out there and selling their service, I watched actually a great example of this the other night, which was it was a ClickFunnels webinar, and it was referring to a pizzeria, and the pizza parlor put in a green phone. So they had their red phone over here, where all of their advertising, their flyers, their yellow pages ad, that was the number they dialed. And they set up a green phone over here, and the green phone was only advertised, the phone was only advertised to existing customers via a mailer that went out every day. And the green phone was responsible after a month for 4 times more revenue than the red phone. Right, so the green phone, by the simple act of emailing existing customers, talking to existing customers, generated 4 times the amount of business than the red phone, the outside lab. So what does that mean? And first of all, it should mean, pretty obviously to most people, that there is an untapped potential in your existing business. But more than that, what it means is it's kind of hard to reword it, to say it multiple times, but simply put, a meaningful conversation with an existing customer or an existing prospect or an existing lead, and I mean meaningful, I mean picking up the phone, diving into what counts for them, what matters to them, will take your business further than pursuing 1 million likes. That's what it means.
So that makes a lot of sense. And how do you have a meaningful conversation?
Pick up the phone and ask someone how they're doing.
So one of the things that we even talked about today's hack, like when we were letting people know about today's call on the Founder's Thoughts, you have mentioned that, what people do really well on social media is that they manage to have a meaningful conversation with hundreds, if not thousands of people at once with the content they produce. And so my question automatically was like, okay, how? So would you say how is by first picking up the phone and first talking to people individually to then being able to know what's actually meaningful and then moving on?
So if you want to replicate the offline success into online success and being able to do it at scale, which is what we're talking about, it's about a very, very clear avatar. And we spoke about this in previous weeks, about the fact that marketing is designed to push and pull. It's not just designed to pull people towards you, it's designed to push people away from you at the same time. So if you look at people that do this well online, they have a very solid understanding of the person they're talking to. Because there are similarities between 10, 18-year-old men from New York. There are similarities to 5, 50-year-old women in California. So if you have, and you obviously take it further than that, that's kind of age and gender and location is the very, very surface of understanding who a person is. But if you talk to 24 people that were born in the 70s or 80s that like sewing, they will have the same concerns, they'll have the same dreams, the same desires, the same goals, so you can have that conversation en masse. But I would literally suggest people, this is kind of reiterating something from previous weeks, chiropractors or dentists or doctors or physiotherapists or massage therapists, or if your business is defined by the need for person-to-person contact, then our advice, my advice, is literally, if you're sitting there without the ability to do that at the moment, literally call people, literally ask them how they're doing. Just have a conversation with them. You know, there's a handful of people that I keep in touch with on a regular basis that there's no transaction involved. And I think that's part of a meaningful conversation. It's not transactional. You're not calling someone to say, I need this from you. How much is that worth to you? Now, you might need things from those people. You might want things from those people. It might be advice. It might be business. It might be referrals. It might be one of 100 things. But the reason for the call is not the transaction. The reason for the call is just the call. And I do say call, I'm kind of interspersing that with DMs, emails, etc. But a one-on-one conversation can get a business a lot further than it thinks. And I think the reason it's so unattractive to people is because it's hard work. If you call 20, 30, 40, 50 people in a day, it's a job. I mean, that is actually tough to do. And it might not sound it to people that haven't done it. But I've worked in outbound call centers when I was younger, where we were required to do 80 calls in a day. That's 10 calls, and like completed calls, not just like, you know, the person didn't pick up. So you're talking 10 calls an hour, which means you're talking a call every 6 minutes. Now, that is a true job. By the time you finish a shift doing that, you know you've done it. But that's why, you know, so much business is still done by call centers, right? Because having a conversation is a powerful, powerful thing. We're designed to do it. And if you want advice, or if you want referrals, or if you want business, literally pick up the phone to your best customer, or pick up the phone to someone that you have a kindred with, and just say, hey, I just thought I'd call, see how you're doing. And they will immediately default to what you want. And you go, no, I just want anything. I just wanted to call you, see how things are going. Tell you a bit about what I'm up to, see what you're up to, see if there's any, you know, anywhere in the middle that might meet. And if not, it's just good to catch up. And those calls that I have, you know, the ones that I have ad hoc, you know, I just had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn today that I haven't spoken to for months. And I'm looking forward to that call. Right? And I'm going to tell him what I'm doing, and he'll say, oh, you should speak to XYZ, or oh, I can help you with that, and vice versa. I'll be able to help him on places as well. So yeah, it's almost a very hard thing to teach because there's no detail behind this. Right? There's no secret sauce here. I'm saying everybody that listens to this, once they finish listening to this, should pick up the phone and call somebody for a non-transaction. So if you're a realtor, call somebody that you've already, you know, finished the deal with, and just say, just want to catch up, see how you're doing. Right? And that's where a referral comes from. But if you do it for the reason of the referral, it doesn't work. If you call them and say, hey, I just wanted to see if you want to refer me to 3 people, unless you're bribing them, it doesn't work that way. Whereas if you call them and say, hey, I just wanted to catch up, see if you settled in, their immediate reaction will be, what do you want? Because we live in a transactional world. You go, no, I don't want anything. I just want to see if you're okay. Just checking in. And you'll end up having deep conversations. Now, out of those 100 that you do, 90 of them might be totally useless, will get you nowhere, will give you no insight, won't give you a referral, won't impact your business. But the 10 that do will take you much, much further than a 50,000 page likes or 50,000 followers.
And so what I'm hearing you say, so those are more like internal. Well, you did talk about customers. So it's really the only intent is connection. I think that's the key, is to call with the only intent to connect and see, you know, how you're doing. And I would advise, I don't know what you would think, for someone like me, because I have the tendency on picking up the phone and I can end up talking for 2.5 hours. It's just saying, you know, I had 20 minutes between meetings and I wanted to connect, see how you're doing. We haven't talked in a while. And, you know, especially right now, we don't need an excuse. We could just say, like, it's been, I feel like I've been drawn to connect with more people now that I've been in isolation. I mean, if you need an excuse, it's a great one. And then just say, I have 20 minutes in between meetings, and connect and see what happens.
You say especially now, Jess, I don't think you ever needed an excuse to connect with people. I just think we're all too busy to actually do it. And on the basis that social connection is hardwired into our DNA, are we surprised that the model of consumerism and capitalism that we had 3 months ago is failing us now? No. The model we had was that you didn't have time to do that. But we are literally, we feel, they've studied this under functional MRIs, you know, being removed from the tribe has the same response in your brain as breaking your arm, because both of those things would result in you dying. So that social connection, what we call our default brain, we reset to our default brain. As soon as we're not focused on a factual thing that we need to do, we focus on our default brain. We go back to our default brain. And our default brain is programmed to worry about its connections. It's programmed to worry about, does my wife still love me? Does my husband still love me? Does my boss still value me? Do my people that report to me still respect me? It's programmed to think that way. It's programmed to keep you connected. And yet we've consistently disconnected from each other. Like Jess, you're working on a relationship course. You should call the last person that you did one-on-one coaching with and just say, just wanted to check in, see how you do. Now, if you were to call every person that you've done one-on-one coaching with in the last 5 years and say, I know we haven't connected for a while, just wanted to catch up with you, see how you're doing. I've got 20 minutes to do meetings, so I thought I'd just call you and say hello. I guarantee you by the end of those set of phone calls, you'll have more coaching business than you can possibly handle. I guarantee it. If you're any good at what you do, which I know you are, you call those people and they say, what are you up to? And they say, I'm launching a new course. I've been working on that, really, really excited about it. And obviously I'm doing my one-on-one coaching as well. You know, in these times of COVID, it seems more important than ever to help people in that regard. But I didn't call to sell you a course. I just wanted to check in with you. You will get people that will buy the course. You will get people that will re-engage with coaching. It's just true. And it's just a case of just being willing to pick up the phone. And I think the reason people get scared of cold calling is because it gets transactional. It's, I'm calling to sell. Don't call to sell, just call to talk, right? Make the sale as the afterthought of adding value. So if that person does have questions, if the person says, yeah, I'm really glad you called because I'm going through X, Y, Z, well, answer the question. That's the point of it. And so it's just a case of literally, and I don't think there's anybody in the world that's done business that doesn't have customers. And if you have customers, talk to them. And if you talk to them, they will be more fond of you than they were before. And if they're more fond of you than they were before, they'll give you more money. In a really nice, cool, special, beautiful way, right? Not in the, I'm going to just track people down and hunt them, right? We've talked about this before. Don't hunt, gather. I'm saying that there's a sales mentality that leans itself more into gathering than hunting. And it's just talking, right? And if we're going to gender stereotype this, women should be fantastic at this. Because as you said, I can talk for 2.5 hours. I'm bored after 5 minutes. Right? So talk. And if after the 20 minutes, there's still something else to talk about, reschedule a call. At that point, say, listen, I do only have 20 minutes, but I'm really enjoying this. Can we carry on? I literally, just before this call, was on a call with somebody that was a scheduled call for 30 minutes. And right at the end, we stumbled on something that was really quite important to both of us, so we scheduled a call. And it's going to add immense value to my life, and hopefully I can add immense value to his life. But it was just because I reached out this morning and said, hey, do you want to catch up? And I was literally, hey, should we catch up? Are you free? Yeah, great, let's catch up, let's have a coffee. Oh, really? You want that? Oh, I need that. Oh, okay, well, let's have a conversation then. And it's just such a valuable tool, and we forget about it because we're conditioned to go after these. In an online world, we're conditioned to go after vanity metrics, and in an offline world, we're conditioned to do volume. Like if you reach your quota, if you reach your sales quota in any traditional business after the first 3 calls in the morning, they will ask you why you didn't go do the other 50. Right? They don't say, well done for reaching your quota. If you need to do $10,000 of sales a day, and I've got friends that literally have done this, that they spend all their time researching, understanding their client, understanding the need, understanding the desire, because they don't want to work, because they're lazy. right? So they go and they have like a near 100% success rate on a phone because they only call the 3, 4, 5 people they know are going to be the people they need to speak to. Not one of them, I think it's like 4 of them. Yeah, 4 of them. Not one of them get congratulatory from their boss. Not one of them. They ask, why didn't you do, well, if you got 4 from 4, imagine what you get from 50. Right? And then they're like, no, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. It's about hitting my 4 in a way that's in line with me, that's in line with them. I'm at peace, they're at peace, everyone's happy, thanks very much, and I'm done. And they're like, no, do more, do more, do more. So in online world, we're focused on page likes, followers, engagement, forget engagement, page likes and followers and hearts and comments. And I mean, even you said it yesterday, and I understand, I'm not against it, and I'm not saying they're not valuable, but you said on Facebook yesterday, I love seeing all of the hearts and things go up, right? Facebook are not stupid. They employ some insanely clever people, and they know that those hearts and little things fluttering up give you a dopamine hit, right? But actually what was more valuable than that, if you remember that call, was there was a gentleman called Ben that was on that call that said, thank you so much. I'm going to apply that in my relationship right now.
100%.
And that's the thing, that's the moment I saw your face light up. That's what fired you up. You're like, yes, yes. One person said to you, yes, thank you, I'm going to use that right now. And that fires you up. The hearts, it's transient. It lasts a couple of seconds. But we're also focused on the hearts, the likes. How many people like my page? How many people read my post? Forget whether 1,000 people read your post. If one person read it and it changed something in them, or it exposed something in them, or it gave them something to change, that's where the value is.
So that brought me to questions. We also have a question on the backstage area, which is, when I call somebody, what if I say, tell me what you want, I don't have time to chat? That does happen. You just reschedule. Well, like, what do you do?
I would tell them in advance you're just calling to chat and you want nothing. I would pre-frame it and just say, yeah, when you say, hey, do you want to catch up? I think dropping in on people will get, so if you just had a kind of cold call without the intro first, I think you'll get that more often than not. But I think if you just send an email to someone saying, hey, you're free to catch up for 20 minutes this week, nothing specific, nothing on mine, no agenda, just great to hear where you're at. And if the person says, well, what do you want? I would say, hey, nothing. If you're busy, I'll let you go. I just want to call and catch up. Because most of the time it's not true. Most of the time what's happening is the person is getting into a defensive stance because they think you're in an offensive stance. That person thinks you're about to sell them something. So they're starting with the phrase, I don't have time.
Or that they want to take. They just want to take stuff and not really have value. Like I've felt that before.
The sentence can be said that's true for either of our sentences, of they don't perceive the value of the call. Right? Whether it's they want to take or they don't think you're going to give, they're not perceiving value. Like if you were to say to somebody, as a stupid example, someone says, I don't have time for this. And you said, oh, okay, really? Because I need 4 hours of your time and I'm going to give you $1 million. I think you'll find most people, if you were to be able to persuade them this was true, I think you'll find most people would be able to find the 4 hours. Most people. I think if you said, if you talk to me for 4 hours, yeah, I'll give you $1 million. So they did have the time. It's just how they're prioritizing the time. And what they're saying is this call isn't a priority. And if it's not, then that's fine, because it's not the kind of, you're not going to have a meaningful conversation. Right? But most people are literally raising a defense because they're used to being sold to. And I think that if you can get through to that person, it's the perfect person. Because they're so disenfranchised with the whole damn thing, because they're so used to being sold to 100 times a day. I used to have that when I worked in recruitment. If I'd call someone and say, I just want to catch up, they go, what do you want? We don't have any jobs at the moment. Because it's such a transactional industry, you never call to say, how are you? It's just not of interest. The only time you speak as a recruiter to your client, and I know there's better recruiters, I was a particularly transactional recruiter, would be a nice way to put it. I know there are better recruiters than me that may listen to this, but most recruitment boils down to there is a job position that needs to be filled. There are candidates that need to be presented. Most of the time, you're not talking to someone outside of that. So I would say that, first of all, if the person is genuinely interested, that's fair enough. And the second thing I'd say is just perceive it as the person saying, I don't want to be sold to. And if your conversation is valuable and you have value to offer that person's life, then go for it. And if they don't want to talk, then fair enough. I'm sure you've got hundreds of other people that do want to talk.
Awesome. And then my personal question, and you're really, really good at this, is you are very good at like organizing, and that's part of your course that you're launching real soon. So my question is, so you're doing all these calls, do you use like a CRM, even though they're just catching up calls, do you use like a CRM? Do you make notes of like what promises you made to who? Because after a while it can get quite a lot, or you just checklist, jot them down on a piece of paper, add it to your to.
I used to have a CRM and I used to write notes about people and calls. Fortunately, I have a pretty good memory for that. So I've never found it to be a difficulty in remembering if somebody has a family or not. Actually, the call I was on earlier on, I know that he has 2 children. I know one of them's relatively young. He's told me their age multiple times, but it's not a fact I remember. But I genuinely, and should he hear this, I genuinely care. So it's not a case of trying to manipulate the conversation, but I asked him, how are you, how's the family? And said, how's the youngest? Because I know he's just had a child. And that's because I genuinely care about this. And I'm hoping people listening to this do genuinely care about people around them, because it's a really simple conversation. If you genuinely care, it's a really easy conversation. Just ask them how they are and go from there, and then listen to what the response is, and the conversation will find its place. If you don't have a good memory, then yes, some kind of lightweight CRM. I don't think you need to go all the way up to the likes of the bigger enterprise systems, but there's several systems
Can you
online.
remind, for those who might not know, what is a CRM, and do you have some example of like
customer relationship management system? So essentially it logs, so the most successful, I would say, is probably Salesforce. There's some other, these are like the big enterprise offerings. They do smaller offerings as well, but they're better known in that space, and it will track anything you ask it to track. It will track the person's name, their date of birth, the name of their spouse, the name of their assistant, their job position, their previous job position, who works for them, etc. And then below that, the more important thing is a call log or a to-do list. And you normally use those in environments where you have multiple internal people talking to the same customer. Because if you pick up the phone, like whenever your bank calls you, the agent should or will look down the CRM and look at the call list so that they can take the subject on with you with a degree of knowledge and certainty of what's happened in the past. So for most solopreneurs, I don't know if I like that word yet, but for most solopreneurs, you probably don't need it. Mine goes into a to-do list or into my calendar if there's a specific action that comes out of it. But then again, my wife's birthday and Mother's Day goes in my to-do list. Everything goes in my to-do list. And people get jarred with it because they almost see it as offensive if they're friends or they're personal. I'm like, no, I choose not to try and remember anything about what I need to do. I choose to let the system that's designed to do that by engineers with backups, I choose to let that remember for me. So I can remember what job someone's in, what the name of their partner is, whether they're married or not, what their kids are called, etc. So I can remember that detail because I think that's more important in the formation of a true connection than remembering the detail which another system can remember really well for me.
And one of the things that I 100% agree, like you need to use the systems that work for you. I go to a lot of seminars. We go to a lot of we used to. And one of the things, what's your phone number? And we connect. And I liked Facebook, but after a while it was like Instagram, but Instagram didn't really quite. So we would exchange number. One of my tricks, so this is my little hack, is when I save somebody's number, I always do a selfie. Like I save my number with them, I do a selfie with them So it's a lot easier. I'm more of a visual person. So if I see you at an event, I might not know your name, but I know who you are. I know that we've had fun. I know that we did this and this and this together. I just, the names and the dates and like that for me becomes a blur. And it's not because I don't care. For those who know me personally, I think one of the things people say is I care. and I do, but and sometimes, yeah, I forget. So that's super useful for me, like the pictures. And then a lighter CIM. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend Salesforce for anyone who's not in a big corporation. It's a big, I mean, I don't know, but it's a big CRM.
Yeah, it has a lot of uses and it's fantastic at what it does. But for like a 1-2 man company, they do it, as I said, they do a team version, which is 5, but until you have...
I've never seen that one.
Or it used to be, I mean, my knowledge of it's a while back, but until you have multiple people calling the same customer, you don't need anything more than Monday.com, Pipe Drive, or even just a Google spreadsheet or whatever it might be.
Yeah, sometimes a spreadsheet helps too.
Yeah, or even just like using on Mac or PC, just using the Contacts app and just putting comments in the notes. But yeah, it's not something I've had to deal with personally, except for when it's been in kind of multiple people companies. But yeah, it's just, today's kind of topic is really just that simple. Just reach out and talk. In the UK, we had a set of adverts for British Telecom, so where the guy in a London accent would say, "It's good to talk." That was their motto for about 15 years. It's good to talk. It is. And if you're nervous about it, you're not listening to what I'm saying. It's not a cold call. It's not a sales call. It's not a transactional call. I'm not asking you to call people that are difficult. I'm not asking you to call people that have left you as a customer. There's value in all of those things. Right? If you're a salesperson, one of the most valuable call you can do is to somebody that didn't say yes and ask them why. If you're running a business or running a department, what's the most valuable thing you can do is calling someone that left you as a customer and asking them why. But those things do require a little bit of pre-framing in your head. It's not easy to do. It requires a level of bravery to call someone and say, "Why did you reject me?" essentially. So I'm not saying do those things because they're the more tricky ones. I'm saying call someone that's a friend or someone that's a colleague that if you met them in a different life would be a friend and ask them how they're doing. I mean, it's not tricky. It's not rocket science. Call somebody that you get on with and ask them how they're doing. And if you do that 20 times a day for the next week, you will earn more money than you would have than otherwise. You will get business out of that route. As long as you're not doing it for the sake of getting business. That sounds a bit perverse. But if you do that, you'll structure your conversations. You'll start saying, what's the best way, da-da-da-da-da. You'll start strategizing and finding tactics to your calls. No, don't do any of that. Just pick up the phone and say hi.
Right. I think one of the key things you're saying is, you know, you picture like calling all your customers. There are some that may not be happy. There are some that were difficult. Like you don't need to go there. Go to the ones that you don't need to. And so one of the questions that I raise is, so personally, I have tendencies to overcommit. I don't think I do that as much anymore. But that's one of the questions. Some of us have a tendency to overcommit every time, like we're on the phone, people ask for advice or help, or like we get excited about a conversation. So I get excited about a conversation, like, oh my goodness, and we could do this, and this could be this, and this, and that. And then all of a sudden, we have 1,000 things in our to-do list. What do you recommend in that aspect? And does that happen to you?
It does happen to me, but my response isn't healthy. So I don't know if I'm the right person to advise people. I don't go to bed until I've fulfilled my commitments. And that leads me to be up till stupid o'clock on the average day because I do overcommit. The simplest answer is never to commit to anything on a phone in terms of a timeline. So if you say to someone, yes, I can help, and they say, if there's a when, don't answer it, and I'll say, I'll get back to you. So all you're actually committing to is getting back to someone in a couple of days. But you just need to train yourself to say, let me think about it. And say, I would love to help you. I'd love to do that, but let me think about it and make sure I can meet that expectation before I set it. And just train yourself to never say yes. We spoke about this, I think it was last week, we said no is a more powerful word. Right? Because every time you say no to somebody, the time you say yes, they know it means something. Like we were on a call this week with Shannon O'Donnell from the Restless Group. And she paid me a compliment, and it meant more than most compliments I've heard this year. Right? Because she says it as she sees it, and I've seen her eviscerate people on the spot when she chooses to, and I've seen her treat people with total apathy when she's not interested. Some people give you a compliment, and you know the type of people I'm talking about. Everybody's got these where you go, yeah, because all they ever say is good stuff. I'm not saying don't be a positive person. Of course you should be, but at the same time, true love comes with true authenticity, and that comes with being willing to tell people some hard truths sometimes, some negative truths sometimes, and people that talk the truth, of which no is part of being true. People that are willing to offer truth, when they say yes, you're like, wow, okay, that means something. So I would always prefer someone to say no than to say yes, because the no means more than the yes. And when they then do say yes, it truly is a true response.
Wow, I think that's it. I mean, you just say, let me think about it, and being able to say no with care, saying that I love this idea. I love that. I love this idea. I would love to work with you on this, and let me think about it. Let me think if I can fit into, like, if I can do this. Let me get back to you. It's so powerful.
A slight rephrase of that, just slightly, is to make sure you're still talking about them, not about you. So I love the idea. I'd love to do this, but I want to ensure that I can set an expectation for you that I can keep to.
Okay.
We speak about this on the relationship call, about saying things that are unarguable.
Yep.
If you want to say, if I can fit it in, you're telling them, I want to see where the priority of you lies next to other things in my life.
Oh yeah, no bueno.
You've just said to them, I'm going to take this back and see if you're as important, more important, or less important than the other stuff I already have. Whereas if you say to somebody the sentence, I want to make sure if I'm setting an expectation I can keep it, that's about them. And
honoring them.
Yeah, and that normally results in a thank you, not a, well, hang on a second. And I'm not saying people pick up on that consciously, but subconsciously, if you say, let me see if I can fit this in, you're saying, let me see if I can fit you in. Yeah. And that then leads to the next, the 2 + 2 is, well, okay, so is what you're saying more important? And it might be the case that they're not as important as the other things, but it doesn't need to be expressed that way.
Well, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're looking at, let me see when I make sure that I honor my commitment to you, and that I can actually take this on, so that I can,
deliver to the standard I want.
Yeah, deliver to the standard. At the end of the day, it's the same. You're actually going back to analyzing priorities, but the way, and that again goes back to last week's theme about language. It's so powerful.
And the second way of saying it is unarguable. And it's still honoring them, as you said. If you say, I just want to make sure if I set an expectation, I can keep to it and deliver to the standard I know that you're going to need, then the person normally, like 99 times out of 100, can do nothing other than say thank you. So the person has now thanked you for not answering on the spot. They're not angry, they're not aggressive, they've literally thanked you for not saying yes. And that's perfect. Now, you then do have to be willing to do the next email, which is and say, I'm sorry, I can't actually help you in this regard, but everybody would prefer that. Everybody, the thing that kills businesses is people sitting in the seat not doing the job. And I'm talking whether it's your business or whether it's the business with somebody else. If you're in the seat, if you're the social media manager, or you're the marketing person, or you're the ops person, or you're helping someone rewrite their CV, it doesn't really matter. If you say yes and you don't do it, that is the worst possible outcome. The best outcome is you say yes and you do it. The second best outcome is you say no and you don't do it, because then they know they need to find somebody else to do it. The worst outcome is you say yes and you don't do it, because then you said yes, so they're not finding anyone else. They're now reliant on you, and you've let them down. And that will breed discontent in any relationship quicker than ever. As you spoke about this just yesterday, my wife said, just don't promise the 3 hours. Right? It's not a case of do what you said and give me the 3 hours. It's a case of don't let me down. Right? If I know that I need to be responsible for the children for X amount of hours, then okay, I'll find a way. Or I'll call somebody else, or I'll do this, or I'll do that, or I'll do that. But if I know that you're going to do it, I'm going to rely on that. And that's when people get really disappointed. And for all of your best intent, and that's why it's a kicker, that's why it really hurts, because you were trying to help by saying yes. All you've actually done is made their situation worse, not better. Right? Think about that. It's not neutral. If you say yes to somebody and then you can't deliver what you said yes, they are worse off than if you'd said no. Not neutral, they're worse off. They're literally, you made their life worse. Because let's take a classic example that people might be going through at the moment. You phone a friend, you're having a conversation, hey, I'm applying for a new job. Would you mind looking at my CV for me? Yeah, sure. I'll do that, no problem. Send it over. Cool. And they send it over and you're too busy and you don't do it and you don't do it and you don't do it. And they then don't get the job or don't get the interview because the input you would have given them didn't get given because you were too busy.
Whereas and they were waiting and they might somebody have,
Yeah. And instead, if you go and do, I would love to do that. But honestly, right now, I've just got too much on my plate. I can't give that the attention it deserves. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to say no. Now, in that 1 millisecond, that's more difficult. I get it. You've ruffled their feathers and they go, okay, fair enough. But now they have the opportunity to find somebody else to review their CV who can give them the input and can help them progress.
And could you say something in the sense of like, exactly what you said, right now I'm overwhelmed with work, whatever it is. And I would love to do this. I'd love to support you. And I don't feel like I'll have the time to give it the attention it deserves. So you can send it to me and I'll do my best to check it out tonight. If I don't get back to you tomorrow morning, it's because I didn't have time.
Don't do it. You're trying to wuss out of not giving a commitment by giving half a commitment.
Yeah.
That person can then still hear the sentence, they said they would do it. Because our language is so amazing, but so inaccurate insofar as everybody hears words in different ways. You're giving someone a false promise. Either say, yes, you're going to do it, or say, no, you're not going to do it. The amount of times I tell people, it's literally zero. When I say to people, I will if I can. No, just say no. Because that's what you're really saying. Right? And I would also say, not because you don't have time, a better way to say that, there's the same sentence again, is that you can't take that on without dismissing the other commitments you've already made.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because again, that's not about you're not important. What you're saying is me keeping to my commitments is important. Now, the last thing, by the way, inside this, and then we're at time.
Yes.
Is there isn't such a thing as a commitment without a time period. So if you say to someone, yeah, I'll do that. So let's say this hypothetical, I'll look over your CV. And they say, that's great. The next thing you should say is one of two things. Either, when do you need it done by? Or, I can have it to you by Friday, is that okay? Because you're in a very dangerous space if you agree to do something without understanding the context and the time by which it needs to be done. If you say, yes, I'll do that, and in your head, it's somewhere in the next few weeks, but they need to send that CV for a job interview tomorrow, you've just essentially done the same thing as saying, yes, you will, and they're not doing it at all. Because normally if someone's asking you to do something, there is a time period within which that action is useful, and a time period within which that action is useless. And it goes from useful to useless, right? Not slightly less useful. It's like, I needed that a week ago. I don't need it now. So even more, apart from, okay, yeah, I'm happy to review it, you're better asking for the context. So why? Because I'm applying for a job, because then you can change the way you actually review it in itself. If someone asks you to review like a video, yeah, if it's something that you and I run into, and you say, can you review this for me? It's better telling them, I know that the lighting was bad, or I know that the sound quality, I'm after your feedback in this area. So the more specific you can ask for something, or if it's not asked specifically, the more you qualify it yourself, the better you can actually do at the job. Because often you'll find that something that someone's asking for is actually only a 5-minute job. But because you're an expert in it, you perceive it as being a 4-hour job. And the amount of times I've done something, yeah, I'll do that. I can review that for you. And I do this like three-day, 2-day thing, and then I just needed, just to check the fonts. You're like, oh crap, why do I? If I ask that of you, what is it specifically you want me to look at? Again, I've offered to help a friend of mine with their website, and my perception of the job was much larger than when I spoke to them. That it's actually more about the wording and the structure of the content than it is of the website. But his request, because he's not an expert, so he doesn't know, rightly, it's not his fault, he doesn't know the domain-specific language to use to talk to an expert, is my website's terrible. Well, the website's actually quite good. What he means is the language and this wording and the context isn't quite right. So A, qualify all the time what it is that the actual expectation is, but B, just as importantly, if not more importantly, understand the time frame that you're operating in or they need you to operate in.
Amazing. So I just want to wrap up real quick with final thoughts. One of the things we were talking, the main theme for today was quality, like a conversation and having a quality conversation. And I lost my train of thought. So I guess it wasn't important.
I'll wrap up. Maybe I should wrap up what I said.
Yes.
How about that? One meaningful conversation is worth more than 1 million likes. Don't go and chase the vanity metrics today. Don't go and chase the likes, the comments, the hearts, the page views, the reads. Instead of doing that, pick up the phone, talk to someone and say hello. Because we said this morning, and the hack of the day was that time is the only true currency. So spend that time aligning yourself with people, customers, colleagues, etc., that you go along with.
I found out, yes, 100%. And I found my question. One, before we leave, you are going to be doing an incredible course. Can you just tell us a little bit about it? And then if people are interested, they could just DM you on Facebook. Would that be a good idea to just send you a direct message saying, I'm interested either at Hack Mankind or at Peter Swain?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm launching a course. We're launching in the next couple of days. We've been working on it all weekend, and it's essentially, it helps you if you've got skills and passions. We're going to take you to a digital business within 8 weeks. So skills and passion to digital business in 8 weeks. So it identifies your true why, helps you understand market opportunities and business models, planning, process management, personal automation, leveraging third-party networks like Fiverr and Upwork, and how you can do crowdsourced design work. So like most people don't know, for about $400, $500, you can get 60 people to do your logo for you instead of getting one person to do your logo for you. And you can then choose which one you want to proceed with. And then we're going to set up, in the last 2 weeks, we're going to set up a website in an hour from beginning to end. So it'll be images, domain name, emails, text, the whole shebang in 1 hour. And then we're going to set up social as well. So within 8 weeks, first intake is the 1st of June. So by the end of July, anybody that's enrolled in it, anybody that has any skills and passions, which everybody does, we will find a digital business model for you and get you live within the 8 weeks. And we've got some other bonuses in there, how to do live calls, how to do lighting, how to use those to do the getting things done system that I use. There's about 3 or 4 bonuses in there as well. So yeah, that starts 1st of June, training every week, with a live call every week with group support and a support channel as well.
I do absolutely love it, because I've kind of been privy to the insides and like the backstage area, and I've kind of been one of the, can you say guinea pigs, right? For going through it, and I am so excited, and I can't wait for some of those modules. I'm like, yeah, I want to be on. So I highly recommend reach out to Peter at Peter Swain on Facebook, or at Hack Mankind as well, and we can send you the links once it's ready to go. I'm so excited. We are 10 minutes away to our group support calls, our angel calls. So if you have any concerns, anything going on, or just a share that you'd like to share, and wins, and yeah, that you want to just show up and have some support, or just sit back and relax and listen and just shift your energy, shift your state, it is the best place to be. 12 noon. If you don't have the link, www.hackmankind.com, and you will receive daily emails in the morning with the schedule. It's just a schedule sent every morning to your inbox, and it has like a little star so you can pick it out. I love that. We have a little star so we can pick it. I always look for the star to make sure I have access to the schedule. And there you go. So we'll see you real soon in about 10 minutes on the other call. Take care. Thanks, Peter.
Cheers, Jess. Bye-bye.
Bye.